Nostalgie, nostalgia, sentimental longing, wistful affection, memories unlocked. Now, when I say that word, nostalgia, what memories pop into your head? When I think of memories gone by, I think back to fishing with my dad, gardening with our family, and stories of my great-grandmother. If you could reconnect with your memories in some tangible, physical way, wouldn't you want to? Well, I have. I reconnect with my memories with one of my family's heritage languages. Pour moi, ça c'est Kouri-Vini. In my case, Kouri-Vini. The endangered Creole language of Louisiana, also known as Louisiana Creole. As a poet and an artist in Louisiana Creole, me connecter avec place. I seek out, research, and visit places where my family made marks in history. I gather earth, I take in a deep breath of fresh air, and I appreciate the landscape that's so lush in this environment. And as I do so, I know exactly what it is that we're losing. Paix de la terre, paix du langage. And in Louisiana, as we lose land from oil and gas drilling every year, that also includes what else? Saltwater encroachment, climate change, and things of the like. As we lose these things, its cultures and our languages will eventually go with it, unless we're diligent. In Creole, Louisiana, I'm speaking about in colonial Louisiana, the Creole Louisiana originally. Creole or Creole became an identity for people who in Louisiana who spoke Creole, French, or Spanish, and were also Roman Catholic. It was also applied to plants grown and animals raised in as far north as present-day Missouri and Illinois, and as far south as Louisiana. Every language is steeped in a rich history, and they all deserve their story to be told, and Kouri-Vini is no different. In colonial Louisiana, right, the origins are this. The French enslaved West Africans, such as the Bambara, Fon, Igbo, Yoruba, Mandinka, and Wolof, among other peoples. And then they were sent across the Atlantic to the Gulf of Mexico. And when they arrived in as early as 1719 here in Louisiana, the Louisiana Creole language started to become a developed language within a generation or two, as we understand it. Not long after, plantation owners, their families, and folks in close proximity started to speak it too. The Louisiana Creole language became solidified, as it also became eventually the lingua franca, or common language, for many regions of the southern part of colonial Louisiana, along the Mississippi River and the Bayou Teche. When first documented in the 18th and 19th centuries, our language was recorded using a French orthography, a French spelling or writing system. While Kouri-Vini is a French lexified Creole language, it also borrows terms like okri and gombo from African languages, and maringouin and patassa from regional indigenous languages, such as Choctaw. It also shares grammatical structures similar to West African languages like Mandé, Wolof, and some say Fon and Ewe. In the 1930s, Creole language researchers stated that the French orthography could not capture the full array of sounds in our language. In the late 20th century, academics used Pan-Creole Haitian orthography to write our language, which still didn't give Louisiana Creoles autonomy, literary autonomy, I mean. Nos langages, c'est pas français, et c'est pas créole haïtien. Our language is not French, and it's not Haitian Creole. We needed our own orthography. We needed our own writing system made by and for Louisiana Creoles. So, in the mid-2010s, a group of Louisiana Creoles did just that. They created the Kouri-Vini orthography. And this was such a big step in preserving our language because it opened up avenues pour créoler comment, for Creoles like myself, to create, communicate, and collaborate through our own lens as a means of connecting to our heritage. For me, I wanted to connect with my great-grandma, whose first language was Kouri-Vini, which eventually led me to create a Louisiana Creole form of art called Latannyèrizm, which combines physical place, visual art, and our language in various literary formats, such as poetry and microstories. In my poetry, I explore topics as far-ranging from nostalgia to capitalism to environmental activism, but one thing will always be Kouri-Vini. My poetry is first in Kouri-Vini and then often translated into English. I'd like to share with you a poem that I wrote that recounts a simple memory of fishing with my dad. Dans Adouci de l'eau. Rive dans de l'eau dans l'avant-jour, passer 30 minutes dans nos bateaux. Pour pêcher, pour trapper tout, pour pas dire, il faut nous adoucir de l'eau. Petite tache laillée dans joli roseau, côté poisson qui fait marée rouge. Tourbillon fait trop pour sortir la mèche, manger d'eau douce. N'a fini trapper petit à petit. Après nous, ça finit adouci. Rive dans de l'eau dans l'avant-jour, passer 30 minutes dans nos bateaux. Pour pêcher, pour trapper tout, pour pas dire, il faut nous adoucir de l'eau. From sweetening up the water. In our bateau before daylight, we ride 30 minutes under star cover. To attract all the fish in sight, Dad says, we got to sweeten up the water. Little specks in beautiful roseau next to fish who make red the deep. Tornadoes scare them so much so, they don't dare leave the marsh to eat. We'll end up catching them little by little, right after we've sweetened up the sea. In our bateau before daylight, we ride 30 minutes under star cover. To catch all the fish in sight, Dad says, we got to sweeten up the water. Now, while that may not seem like some sort of like grand gesture, large statement-making poem, it is. Because anytime I use Kouri-Vini, I know that it helps to expand our language to new audiences like yourselves, but then also that it helps to give it continued life. This is important work to me for many reasons, but one personal reason in particular, again, involves a nostalgic memory with my dad. So a couple years back, Dad and I were out in the garden. Nous avons ramassé tomates, j'ai causé. We were just picking tomatoes, just chatting. Ah ben, quand on finit, l'été dit quelque chose joliment profond. Well, when we finished, he said something that struck me. He said to me, Bub, when you speak Kouri-Vini, Creole, on the phone with your friends, it's just like when Grandma would sit and visit in the kitchen growing up. Look, I told him he had never said that to me before when I was speaking French. To which he replied, nope, no, because that didn't sound like how she spoke. This does. Let me tell you how much that meant to me, and it means so much to me. That sort of thing, hearing my dad's verification, that showed me the power and the importance of language and the connection to heritage, that mon papa, who didn't learn our language growing up, still had a subconscious understanding of its nuance, cadence, and intonations. That became a driving force for me to continue learning, speaking, and writing so that I could do my part to carry on this endangered language. Ça fait un an hier. So where are we now? People have been saying since the 1930s that this language was going to die. It was supposed to be virtually dead by the 1950s, then the 1980s, but then also 2020, right? Well, we're in the 2020s, and we're in where? What time now? 2023. It's continued because of technology, art, poetry, and most importantly, community. Friends and colleagues of mine have come together to found Chinbo Inc., a nonprofit full of passionate community members who create educational and learning materials for Kouri-Vini. For me, the work doesn't stop with just using the language. It continues with hosting and co-hosting poetry and Creole storytelling and Kouri-Vini language workshops for kids and adults, with writing literature and lyrics, and even co-editing and illustrating books, recording audio, and making videos. So these are just a handful of things that I do with fellow Louisiana Creoles who speak or are learning to speak the language. Together, as a community, we can create a linguistic future that connects the past to the present. Mediums such as art and poetry expand the existence of our language, which then in turn increases the learning, understanding, and preservation of one's culture. In this instance, our own. Ask anybody in the world who's heard of Louisiana what they think or know about it, and chances are they're probably going to say something like, oh, well, it's one of the most unique cultures in the world. Yes, we are different from anywhere else, and sometimes that's hard for us to appreciate because it's so intrinsic to who we are and what we've experienced living here. But we're losing that culture. Land laws equals language laws equals culture laws. And in Louisiana, when anything threatens to take away our land, language, and culture, be it hurricanes, coastal erosion, climate change, or drilling, we must make a stand to preserve, nurture, and grow these for future generations. And if threats emerge for your heritage language, especially if it's an endangered one, I implore you to learn from your elder speakers or relatives or friends and use your talents to create an enduring linguistic future. You have the power to unlock memories, to provide verification, give newfound perspectives, and continue traditional, non-traditional cultural stories and traditions. Plantez tout la graine à stèle. Bien, merci vous autres. Thank you.